Namaste. I'm Jyoti. I'm the founder director of Ajanta Vihara Institute of Spiritual Sciences, sharing my insights on what kind of work culture we should be looking forward to in this new world that is emerging. Till 2019, I remember everything was almost set in terms of what training models worked for organizations, what were the tried and tested methods, approaches, models that worked, for implementing good, happy work cultures, how to keep your employees motivated, how to help them release their stress during their work hours. Everything was quite organized, quite sorted, quite in place. And then COVID 19 hit us. And for next 1.5, 2 years, world went through some drastic changes. We went through some drastic changes. Now, these changes were visible, some of them, but a lot of changes that were happening were not even visible because those changes were happening inside, in our inner world. So we could see the changes that were happening in the outer world, cities and countries and on the road and in hotels and eating places, all that we could see. We could see the timings, the flexible work hours, but we could not see the changes that were happening in this inner world. We could not see the changes that were happening in our middle world, which is about our relationships, work, our workplace, our relationship with the world at large. But most importantly, our relationship with ourselves started to change, and that's inner world. Now, most of us have not even realized what kind of changes we are going through. Of course, we've got a lot of new things in place. We've got work from home culture now in place. You've got flexible hours in place. But that is because we are still kind of trying to come out of the habit of COVID 19, and we still are into a very unpredictable space in this world after COVID 19. But if we were to understand what is the change that's happening in a world, we will be able to understand what is a new work culture that we should be looking at. And trust me, it's not only about flexible work hours, work from home. You can work remotely. You can manage whatever you want to from any location, any timelines. It's not only about that. It's also not about you can keep your leaves flexible. You can take whenever you want. It's not about that. I mean, that's a great thing that's happened. And if organizations are able to hold on to this kind of a flexible timing and work and everything, then great. But if you really want a sustainable, happy work culture in the organization, one has to understand, organizations have to understand what is the shift that's happened internally. That means what is a shift that's happened for people emotionally. What are their emotional needs now? What are their psychological needs? What are their spiritual needs? You cannot deny spiritual side anymore. Now, if you understand spirituality as sitting down and chanting mantras, or if you understand spirituality as wearing a certain kind of a coat, a gown, a cape, or a costume, and sitting in just meditation, then it's a very limiting, belief system that you're attached to, and it's time that you open up to it. Spirituality, essentially, to me, is a process, and that's what I teach everybody at this institute, is a process that helps you in moving from fear frequencies into love frequencies. Now, a lot of people say, hey, what's the use of love in workplace? I mean, what are you talking? Are employees going to just sit and talk about love? When are they going to do the work? Hey, listen. We might carry different tags in different environment, and we might do different role plays, but the core stays same. It's like ECG. Anywhere in the world you go, ECG can be read by any doctor, right? It does not need a translator because it's one constant language. It is capturing the vibrations. So at core, we all feel, and we feel in the same way. It's like our skeleton. We all have same skeleton. It's not like you're going to have 4 bones extra if you're a human being, right? We have same skeleton. It's the fleshing out of the skeleton that's different. Same way, irrespective of what role play you are playing, your core remains same. And that core is my focus, which is the emotional body, which is the energy body, where your ECGs are formed, all kind of ECGs. So if an organization is experiencing employee attrition, we need to look into that ECG, right? That work culture ECG. If there has been a lot of conflicts between management and employees, or different managers and their teams and all, then we need to understand the ECG of those teams and that collective energy dynamics to understand what's happening out there. Because at core, each one of us, irrespective of what role play we are into, whether it's professional environment or personal, each one of us is looking for 3 things. 1 is respect. 2nd is to be valued. 3rd is to be loved. Now you can go in whichever sequential order you want to go in. It's not like first comes respect and second value and third love. And it is the fact. You cannot let an employee feel unloved. Because if you make an employee feel unloved, the employee is going to get into a survival mode, which is the herd mindset gets triggered, and fear of abandonment becomes very strong, because at the end we have evolved, from that kind of collective, and it's been there across generation, which is the survival mindset. Survival consciousness has been very, very powerful for us, and it still continues to be, because life asks for survival, and survival of the fittest is what we have seen, across timelines and generations, centuries, that it's the survival of the fittest. So of course, you can't ignore that. So it is very important to tap into these 3 requirements, emotional requirement of anybody, doesn't matter whether the person chooses to work from home or comes to office. These are emotional needs, which means it doesn't have any physical boundaries or physical environmental impact, that if I'm in office then I need this, if I'm at home I don't need that. Like, for example, I have a lot of professionals who come to me with such anxiety and sense of panic all the time, because they feel highly pressurized and devalued because they choose to work from home, and because they're working from home, there are no fixed timelines for them. So if a regular employee starts at 9, they're starting maybe sometimes at 7 for themselves, the work, or even if they're starting at 9, they can continue to work. In fact, sometimes it can be more pressurizing because you are at home, so everybody is expecting you to be there also. How to find this balance can only be defined once you understand what are the emotional needs of your employees. Now, if you look at employee as a human being, then of course there's going to be an eagerness to understand the human emotions and the need for these emotions to be respected. If organizations continue to treat human beings as human capital, human employees are going to feel very objectified. And in spite of some of the organizations really being very proactive towards a very healthy, happy culture which is rich in these emotional needs, most of the organizations feel it is a waste of time to tap into emotional needs of an employee. And I have seen that one of the very common practice is to provide employees with de-stressing activities. Could be sports, could be dance, could be off-sites or various trainings that the HR keeps conducting, with an assumption that these activities, these de-stressing activities or fun activities, or team bonding, team building activities are actually going to help an employee feel that his or her emotional needs have been met. But that's not true. Activities come with a time span. It's a time bound. It's an activity, which means it's external engagement. There's nothing that's happening internal, and the need is internal. So one has to work out models. One has to design a culture which is based on this internal requirement, this core. Something very interesting in Buddhism. They say suffering comes from three doorways: mind, speech, and body. And imagine, I mean, the kind of time employees spend in work environment, all these doorways are wide open, right? And when something like when you are utilizing so much of your mind, the speech is so active all the time, because in workplace you have to express a lot more than you would do in your personal space. So, and your body has to be also in that active space all the time. You need to be feeling very active. So if all three doorways are not only wide open but also feeling the pressure of this energy of suffering that's coming in. Now you must be wondering, what is this energy of suffering that's coming? Well, one is suffering because of suffering. So if you are seeing your peer, if you're seeing your managers, or if you're seeing the work culture carrying impressions of suffering of employees who've been there prior to you, who are senior to you, who have spent more time with the organization, then you will automatically start feeling that, because your emotional need is to feel valued. And if you don't see somebody else being valued, you're automatically going to feel that you're not going to be valued. Another energy of suffering is through change. So and we do know that we live in a very unpredictable world today. We are always feeling that things are going to change for us. So employees do not feel safe, and any work culture that treats employee as human capital, or any work culture that somehow let an employee feel devalued, disrespected and unloved, is going to always make an employee feel very unsafe. An employee will always expect negative changes, and you can say that it's employee's problem, what can I do about it? But that's not the solution, because then an organization is going to keep experiencing attrition. And even if the employees the employees are not going to come with that kind of a high loyalty for the organization, because they're already seeing what other employees are going through, what their team members are going through, what their seniors are going through, as a result of this culture which inculcates only feeling of being unsafe. And the third kind of suffering is suffering due to conditioning. Now, that is where I think one needs to really work a lot, because it's not only conditioning of the employees. So most of the organizations when they take the employees in, employees go through orientation to understand the work culture of the organization. I also feel that it is very important for senior leaders, people who are responsible for orienting the employees, training the employees, the whole of the HR team. They also have to go through certain kind of orientation towards how things are internally changing. And because until you do not start looking at employees just as employees who come to an organization to deliver, and they are not supposed to feel, they are not supposed to be emotional, they are supposed to be strong, they are supposed to be uh, very professional, it's not going to work. Moving forward, it's not going to work. So it's very important even for organizations, the decision makers, the team leaders, to actually relook at this definition of employee. Who is an employee? What is an employee? What defines a good employee? What differentiates a good employee from a bad employee? It's very important to ask these questions, because trust me, if organizations as well as leaders and employers, whoever, the teams that make an organization, if now we do not sit down and understand what is the emotional need of this inner world, trust me, we will not be able to hold on to the employees. Attrition will become much stronger, and you'll continue to experience attrition in the organization. Not only that, the productivity, the performance, and team engagement is going to suffer drastically. And it doesn't matter whether employees are in your physical work location, or are remotely working. So now whatever we have to do, we have to look at the inner need, the core, and that is, I want to be respected, I want to be loved, and I want to be valued. These are the three most important pillars that are needed for any kind of new models that organizations want to implement for happy work culture. I hope this helps. Till next time, love and light.